Thank you, Madam Chair, and welcome back, Director Kraninger. Nice to have you back with us again. As you mentioned in your opening remarks, the 2019 report from the Consumer Bureau Student Loan Ombudsman was released yesterday. Is that correct?
Yes.
And have you had an opportunity to review that report?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Now, I'm not asking if you committed it to memory, just if you had a chance to.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Super. So I have as well. I have it here. And, you know, I always like to look at the recommendations because that's where we as policymakers see things we can make changes to. And there's a recommendation in the report that says, with respect to developing and sharing data analytic tools that support civil and criminal enforcement actions, and particularly with regard to the data that those tools rely upon, policymakers should consider providing limited exceptions to existing statutes, which would then enable increased flexibility in changing data elements collected in complaints, so that such data elements and complaints may be more reflective of and responsive to the changing environment. Do you agree with that recommendation?
Certainly, I appreciate the Ombudsman's ability to make that recommendation, and I can say that we look forward to talking more about it. I think there's always an opportunity that additional data will help, and shared analytic frameworks, understanding each other's analytic frameworks is important to that. So I support the principle. I just want to understand better what's behind it and look at actions that the Bureau should take, just as you're looking at actions lawmakers should take.
So do I, because this recommendation to me sounds like a bunch of gobbledygook. It sounds like something that somebody might say in a term paper when they're trying to get a bunch of buzzwords in, but it doesn't seem to have much substance. Can you give me an example of what kind of exception to an existing statute you think needs to be made?
So the Ombudsman does have a measure of independence, so I would say that this is his recommendation that I know he'd be happy to come to talk to the committee more about further, but I would say that I believe there might be some reference to
you're not aware of any particular statutes or any particular data sets that he's recommending be changed?
Not at this time, no.
Thank you. So continuing on the issue of student loans, how many people are currently working in CFPB's Student Loan Ombudsman Office?
Currently there is just one, but in addition to that, we have 4 staff in the student section in the Consumer Education Division.
So there's just one, and that's Robert Cameron, correct?
That's correct.
All right, and how are you aware that under the previous administration there were between 5 and 7 full-time staff in addition to the director?
I'm aware that there were never 7 full-time staff. There were in fact 5. We're going to ultimately have 7 between the student section and the Ombudsman's office, so that when we look at comparing apples to apples in terms of the functions, there will be more staff dedicated to that activity.
When do you expect to make those hires?
The 5th hire in the student section is underway now. It always takes longer than I wish that it would, but that position has been posted, so that should be done probably in the next 2 to 3 months.
Great.
2 months, I hope.
Now, before Mr. Cameron was appointed the CFPB's Student Loan Ombudsman, he was one of the top attorneys at the Pennsylvania Higher Education Assistance Agency, or FIA. Is that correct?
That is correct. In addition to 20 plus years of public service to the state of Pennsylvania and military service.
And that's the same FIA that has been sued by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the state of New York for unfair practices with regard to their student loan servicing?
That is correct. And it's also,
this is the same company that operates Fed Loan Servicing?
Yes, they're a contractor to the Department of Education.
And Fed Loan Servicing is accused of mismanaging the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. Is that correct?
Again, you're citing what is public information about ongoing litigation.
So
yes.
It is correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you do understand, just for the record, that the role of the Ombudsman is to serve as an advocate for student loan borrowers, not the student loan industry, right?
And again, we're talking about a person who has decades of public service experience and military service experience, and who actually knows how this process works.
But I'm just asking you, as a director of this agency, for the record to say whether it's your opinion that the Ombudsman is there to represent consumers,
And I understand that you're saying that, but I'm understanding also why you're asking this question, and I don't appreciate the impugning of Mr. Cameron's
I'm not impugning-
motives or experience
I'm not
level.
impugning anybody, I just wish that you would answer the question. So is it the role of the student loan ombudsman to act on behalf of borrowers, to represent them?
Yes, just as I've said, it's the mission of the Bureau to protect consumers,
you.
and one we're dedicated to.
Very good, so that was not so difficult. So what happens if Mr. Cameron observes evidence of misconduct from FIA? Would he recuse himself? Have you had any discussions about that?